BRICS in Latin America explain geopolitics and global power shift. There's been a lot of talk about BRICS lately. This grouping of nations that includes Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa. The combined GDP of these 5 countries is over $40 trillion, and their combined population is nearly 40% of the world's population. This economic and geopolitical alliance has been gaining quite a bit of traction lately, especially with many countries around the world showing interest in joining the bloc. The obvious question is, why now? Why are countries looking to join a bloc dominated by these 5 leading emerging economies? Well, the answer is not far to seek. It's all about economics and geopolitics. Let me explain. The global economic order has been largely unchanged for the last 3 decades. It was based on rules set out by Western institutions like the World Bank and the International Monetary Fund. But that order is increasingly coming under challenge. The Western sanctions on Russia and the subsequent financial crisis have forced countries to look for alternatives, to seek new partnerships and new markets. That's where the BRICS come in. It's an alliance of leading emerging economies. They're major consumers of commodities and they're major producers of goods. So there's a lot to gain by trading with each other. The second reason is the shift in global power. The Western powers may not like it, but the fact is the world is becoming multipolar. There's no denying that the US and its allies remain powerful. But the rise of China and India and the resurgence of Russia means that the global power structure is changing and countries want to be on the right side of history. Which brings us to Latin America. As of today, 19 countries have expressed interest in joining the BRICS bloc. Most of them are from Latin America: Venezuela, Argentina, Iran, Bolivia, Nicaragua, Paraguay, Uruguay, Chile, Ecuador, and Peru. Some reports say even Mexico is interested. What explains this interest? Let's take the case of Venezuela. It is one of the countries with the largest oil reserves in the world, but its economy is heavily dependent on oil exports. In 2022, oil and gas accounted for over 95% of total exports. Now, for any country, that's a bad thing because if the price of oil falls, or demand for oil falls, that country's economy will suffer. That's what happened to Venezuela. Oil prices fell during the pandemic, and Venezuela's economy suffered. They went into recession. Their GDP fell by 7%. The country needed help, and who came to their rescue? China did. Beijing extended billions of dollars in loans to Caracas. They built infrastructure for Venezuela, employed thousands of Venezuelans, and bought their oil. It's helped the Maduro government stay in power. And this is just one example. Argentina, too, has been courting the BRICS. In June, Argentina's president Alberto Fernandez landed in Moscow. He was supposed to be in Davos for a pre-scheduled meeting with Putin. This was before the war in Ukraine. Fernandez praised the Russian-Argentine relationship and said that trade between the 2 countries had doubled in the last few years. Today, Russia is one of Argentina's top 15 trading partners. And this is a trend we're seeing across Latin America. Countries here are keen to diversify their markets, and they see the BRICS as the way forward. For some, it's a question of ideology. For others, it's pure pragmatism. But for many, it's both. So what does this mean for the Western powers? Simply put, they've lost influence in Latin America. Don't take my word for it. Let me show you some numbers. In 1990, U.S. exports to Latin America accounted for 13.8% of the region's total trade. In 2020, that number fell to just 8.4%. At the same time, China's share increased from 2.2% to 11.6%. What explains the shift? Well, for starters, Latin American countries have found better trading partners. Their relationship with the U.S. is purely transactional, but with China, it's much more. China buys more from them, invests more in them, and has fewer political strings attached. That's why countries across Latin America are warming up to the idea of BRICS.